Dah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from second group. We'll present a PowerPoint about semantics. First of all, I will introduce the members of second group, namely Arik Ardiansyah, Putri Nabila Altof, and myself, Indah Kadia. The first material will be presented by me. Next. Meaning. Semantic is the study of meaning of word, phrase, and sentence. In semantic analysis, there is always an attempt to focus on what the words conventionally mean, rather than on what an individual speaker like George Carlin might want them to mean on a particular occasion. Doing semantic is attempting to spell out what it is we all know when we behave as if we share knowledge of the meaning of a word, a phrase, or a sentence in a language. Next. Conceptual meaning covers those basic, essential components of meaning that are conveyed by the literal use of a word. It is the type of meaning that dictionaries are designed to describe. Some of the basic components of a word like needle in English might include thin, sharp, steel instrument. These components would be part of the conceptual meaning of needle. However, different people might have different associations or connotations attached to a word like needle, and this association may differ from one person to the next. Next. Conceptual meaning might be helpful would be as a means of accounting for the oddness we experience when we read sentences such as the following: the hamburger ate the boy, the table listened to the radio, and the horse is reading the newspaper. Next. We should first note that the oddness of this sentence does not derive from their syntactic structure. According to the basic syntactic rules for forming English sentence, the hamburger as NP, ate as V, and the boy as NP. Next. The sentence is syntactically good, but semantically odd. Since the sentence, the boy ate the hamburger, is perfectly acceptable. The kind of noun that can be the subject of the verb at must denote an entity that is capable of eating. The noun hamburger does not have this property, and the noun boy does. Next. The simple example is an illustration of a produce for analyzing meaning in terms of semantic features. Features such as plus animate, negative animate, plus human, negative human, plus female, and negative female, for example, can be treated as the basic elements involved in differentiating the meaning of each word in a language from every other word, such as table, horse, boy, man, girl, and woman. Part of the problem seems to be that the approach involves a few of words in a language as some sort of containers that carry meaning component. Next. The second material will be presented by Arik Ardiansyah.
Okay, thank you for moderator. I will explain about semantic role. So for the first material in semantic role is again, and term. Agains and terms are the most common semantic roles. Although agains are typically human, for example, the boy, they can also be non-human entities that cause action as a noun phrase denoting a natural force, for example, the wind, a machine, for example, car, or a creature, for example, the dog, all of which affect the ball as the term. The term is typically non-human, but can be human. For example, the boy, as in the dog chased the boy. In fact, the same physical entity can appear in two different semantic roles in a sentence. As in the boy cut himself, here the boy is agent and himself is term. So for the next material is instrument and experience. If an agent uses another entity in order to perform an action, that other entity fills the role of instrument. In the sentence, the boy cut the road with an old razor and he drew the picture with a crayon. The noun phrase, an old razor, and a crayon are being used in the semantic role of instrument. When a noun phrase is used to decide an entity as the person who has a feeling, perception, or state, it fills the semantic role of experiencer. The boy feels sad. The experience is the boy is the only semantic role. In the question, did you hear that noise? The experience is you, and the term is that noise. So the last material in semantic role is location, search, and go. A number of other semantic roles beside where an entity is in the description of an event. Where an entity is on the table, in the room, fills the role of location. Where the entity moves from is the source. For example, from Chicago, and where it moves to is the goal. For example, to New Orleans. As in, we drove from Chicago to New Orleans. When we talk about transferring money from saving to checking, the source is saving and the goal is checking. That's all for me. Bring back to moderator.
Thanks to Eric Ardiansyah, and the third material will be present by Putri Nabila Altof.
Okay, thank you for moderator. And now I will explain about lexical relation. We are characterizing the mean of each word, not in terms of in component feature, but in terms of relation with the other word. The approach we use to the semantic descriptive language, and then the language feature, but the relationship. The approach it use the semantic description language are related at the analysis of lexical relation. And for this example of the uh, lexical relation is synonym, anatomy, antonymy, and hyponymy. Okay, next. Next. Okay, the first is synonymy. Two or more words with a very close relate meaning are called synonymy. They can be often, true, not always, but substitute each other for the reference. For example, is for other common example of synonym is uh, almost and near, big and large, broad and wide, by and forth, cab and taxi, car and automobile, couch or sofa, freedom and liberty. Like that. We should keep in mind at the idea of sameness of meaning used to discuss a synonymy is not necessarily totally matched. Okay, next. And then the next is antonymy. Two forms with opposite meaning are called antonyms. For example, like alive and die, big and small, fast and slow, happy and sad, cold, hot, and long, short, and something like that. But for antonymy, antonyms are usually divided into two types. The first is grammar or opposite along a scale, and non-grammar like direct opposite. For the grammar antonyms, such as like have a what is it have a different and different level. For example, like big and small or old and new. They have a different sentence, a different word, and a different meaning. And then for another type is non-grammar antonyms. For example, the comparative construction is not normally used. For example, like male and female, married and single, or true and false. They have a different meaning. They have a different meaning, but have a same level. For another example, like pack and unpack, rise and lower, or enter and exit. They have a same level. Okay, next. And then the next part is hyponymy. When the meaning of one from the include in the meaning of another, in the relationship is described hyponymy. For example, like animals and dog, or dog and poodle, and vegetable to carrot, or rose and flower, or tree and banyan. The concept of the inclusion involved in the relationship in the idea that an object is a rose, and then the necessary is a flower. So their meaning flower is included in the meaning of rose, or rose is hyponyms of flower. For another example, like ant is from animals. So this means that uh, animals or animals uh, uh, for the reason is that ant is hyponyms of animals like this. Okay, next.
Dah.
Okay, for the fourth is prototypes. The idea of the characteristic inside of the category is known as prototype. The concept of the prototypes to help explain the meaning of the certain words, like bird, not the interest into the competent feature as has a flitter or has a wings, but is in the terms is resemble of the clearly example. For the example is if given category of the label of the furniture, we are quick to recognize that chair better than example of the bench or the stool. For another example, like if given clothing, people recognize street quicker than shoes, like that. Okay, next. Okay, the next is uh, homophones and homonyms. When two of more different written, when two or more different written forms have a same pronunciation, they can describe as homophones. They have different rhythm but same pronunciation. For example, like beer and bear, meat and meat, flour and flour, pale and pale, right and right, so and so, two. And then for homonyms, when one form, written and or spoken, has two or more unrelated meaning. For example, is bank for of a river and bank for financial institution, or bat for flying crater and bat for use in the sport. So for homophone, they have different written but same pronunciation, and homonym is they have written and spoken have a same, but they have unrelated meaning. Okay, next. Okay, and then the sixth is polysemy. When we encounter two or more words with the same form and relate meaning, we have that is technically known like polysemy. Polysemy can be defined as one from written and spoken having a multiple meaning that relate the exception. For example, like head. Head used to refer to the object of the top of your body, and then can be front of top of the glass of beer, and then person that the top of the company or department. For another example, for polysemy is like foot of the person, of the bed, of the mountain, or run for the person does, water does, and color do. It most dictionary in most dictionaries, bank, mail, moles, soul is clearly treated as a homoponyms. Church, whenever face, foot, get, head, and run is created as an example of polysemy. Okay, next. Okay, the next is wordplay. These last three lexical relations are the basic of the wordplay, usually for humor effect. For example, is like in the necessary rhythm, Mary had a little lamb. We think of the small animal, and but in the comic version, Mary had a little lamb, some rice, and a vegetable. We think all the small almost a meat. The polysemy of the lamb is allowed the two interpretations that's a make of the right. So you can understand why the answer, but this is like playing word. Like we can understand, but sometimes we can understand too. And then the last is metonymy. The relate of the meaning font of the polysemy is necessary based of similarity. And then for the example of metonymy, like using one of their word to prefer to the other, for example, like metonymy is like that close connection. It can be based of the characteristic relation like bottle and water, and then can and juice, like they have something like connection, and it can be a metonymy. For another example, we use mythology when they talk about flirting up the car, answer the door, and bottling with the cattle. It's a giving someone hand and needing someone heels. So it is our familiarity with the metonymy that's make it possible us to understand. He drank the whole of bottle. Through it sounds absurd literally, but he drank a liquid, not a glass. For example, like uh, if we just say that he drank a bottle, it doesn't mean that he really drank the bottle, but he drank the liquid on the bottle, like that. And then next. Okay, and then the last material is collocation. Like collocation is uh, we know which word can occur with another word. One way we seem to organize our knowledge of our word is simply as the basic of collocation or frequently occurring together. Uh, he deserved a lot more attention of in corpus linguistics. A corpus is a large collection of the tasks spoken and written, typically stored as database in the computer. For example, like when you say hammer, more than half will say hail, nailed. Or if you say table, people must say chair. Or and then like if you say what is it? If you say uh, cow, people can say milk like that. They have a relationship like that. Like one way it seem organized your own knowledge, and the word is simply of the basic of collocation, like making have something relationship with one word and another word. For example, like that, like table with the chair, and butter with bread, and then needle with pepper or salt and pepper, and needle it with thread. Okay, that's all for me. Bring it back to the moderator.
Okay, and the last material will be present by Arik Ardiansyah.
Okay, thank you for moderator. For the last material is summary article. So we find the article and topic is semantic analysis of passive sentence translation in novel The Hunger Games, Mockingjay by Susan Collins. The article from Leonora Oktaraini, Andri Buriswati, and Sri Harini Ekowati, Universitas Negeri Jakarta. This study aims at analyzing the translation of English passive sentence into Indonesian language in terms of the meanings and equivalent which appear in the translation. The method used to analyze the data is a descriptive quantitative. The sample of this research is taken from 5 chapters of the novel Hunger Games, Mockingjay by Susan Collins. Thank I will bring to moderator.
Okay, thanks to Putra and Arik. Maybe that's enough for the presentation that we show. Hopefully it is clear and easy to understand. More or less, we apologize. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.